Good morning and welcome to Money and Mindset with the Doctors. I'm Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, known as Dr. Money,
And I'm
and Dr.
Thyonne. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Doing pretty good. How it looks like everything's blossoming, so I'm doing very well because we're well into heading into summer.
Well, I feel like we've been cheated a little bit out of spring. So, what's up with that?
I know, but you know what? It's coming. It's coming. I hike every morning, and this morning things were just opening up. I'm telling you, you could see, and I make this symbolic to COVID, that we're coming out of something. So now that we're coming out of COVID, I see life coming amongst all those dead leaves that were there. Everything was kind of dry and down. It seemed a little cold, but now the sun is starting to come out. All the yellows are out. I saw so many bees out this morning. Bees are my symbol animal, so I love them. And then literally right in front of my face, I'm walking and this little hummingbird just like got right there in front of my face, which I'm scared of hummingbirds because I'm like, they look like they would hurt. But it was just there, like, and then it just blew away. I was like, this is life coming back. So spring is here. Spring is in the air and summer's coming.
Well, I'm with you on that. I popped on the yellow too to try to create that feeling of spring. I said, oh yeah, this is one of those colors that I love for spring. It's bright.
Today, and we didn't even plan it.
Exactly. So I said, like minds, when I just looked at yours, I said, we were thinking about the similar thoughts, right? Blossoms, new beginnings, or new restarts for some folks,
New restarts. And speaking of new restarts, you restarted a program, which I got an opportunity to pop in on this past week, of your P's for Profit, right?
Yes. And oh my goodness, you were such an awesome contributor. Everyone really enjoyed the feedback that you gave them on their stories. And the fact that you could do it so quickly, real time. It's like it was instant. It's one thing to make a statement, but to get that immediate feedback on how you can improve it, it really landed. So we appreciate it.
Because I got some of them saying, we felt cheated because we didn't get to tell ours up front. I'm like, and that's why when someone says, do you want to share? You want to share.
Don't wait. Exactly.
Don't miss the opportunity. But I'm going to give you a 20-minute consult if you want. So I did meet with some of your group there and gave them heard their pitch and gave them some feedback on their information. So
excellent.
It was a great group. So they got little bonus things.
That's what I told them. I said, you better understand that this program is filled with all kind of bonuses. So you better be ready.
That's right.
To take your business to the next level. But it's an exciting group. And just to hear their enthusiasm is, it's always filling. And I love being able to do this real time because, as I mentioned, I'm in the process of updating our plans and our strategies. So it's just exciting.
It was very, very inspiring. And what it made me think about, though, Dr. Money, is these businesses sharing their ideas. They have these goals, they have these dreams. And we know that a lot of these businesses aren't going to make it because there's some stats in terms of why businesses fail. And I think you have some information on why businesses fail as well. And I think today's conversation might be good as we're talking about bringing things to life and letting them grow. How do we make sure that we bring things to life and let them grow and stay out of that category of one of the reasons that businesses fail is because they don't take the opportunities that come up? Maybe share a little bit about some of those. I think you have some tips on those as well.
Well, it's so interesting because that number one reason that a lot of businesses fail has to do with poor execution. And so this is one of the things that we talk about is so often people jump into business. And what I say is a lot of times they jump into business by recreating the job that they had before. And sometimes the job that you have is just really not the business that you should create. It's based on what you've been doing as opposed to understanding where there is a market interest or market demand. And so what happens is, depending upon the strength of the founder or the founding team's skill set, that influences how the business is structured. And sometimes that creates a problem. So in the beginning, which is why during the first session, I introduced the founders to personal assessments. Many of them had never taken a Myers-Briggs assessment or done a DISC assessment to kind of understand their preferences for how they manage and lead teams. So we started there to just first understand. And one of the participants sent me a message and said, "Oh my goodness, just this exercise has revealed so much."
Yes, yes. It's very revealing when you figure out who you are and how you operate, because you have one perception of yourself. Other people have other perceptions. And when you're in different circles, different people will have a different perception of you. It might be a great exercise even for people to go out and say, tell me the 3 words that you think of when you think of me. And you'd be surprised the words that different people will share with you. So that's a good exercise. And your Myers-Briggs assessment and the other assessments that personality profiles or whatever you want to call them, all of them based on Jungian theory. They have the Strength Finder, the DISC, Myers-Briggs, whatever they may be. I do an exercise called Northeast, South, and West just to talk about the styles of how you operate, especially in the workplace. All of those things can help you understand better your preference of how to work and how you work with people. It also helps you learn how to manage your teams. But what is that number one thing? You're saying the number one reason people fail is because they haven't executed the right business. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, or they haven't executed the business that they have correctly. And this is also why a lot of times in investment circles where we're talking about, angel investment or early stage capital investing, you'll hear investors make reference to, well, we really value the team over the business because oftentimes the business in and of itself is not perfected. That's what a new business is. You're looking for a new opportunity. But if you have a strong team, so they'll say, we'll take an A team with a C product any day over a C team with an A product. And that's because the C team is not expected or they lack the skill set to properly execute. They could have a perfect A market opportunity, but because of their lack of skills in executing the business plans, they can make that A product fail.
So having a great team that has a diversity of personality types, that's important too. You don't want everybody being the visionary because then nobody's going to be able to do the work or be on the ground and understand the different concepts. So understanding that you need a diverse team, you need the mechanics, you need the analysts, you need all the different variables in a team so that your venture capitalists and people who are looking at your business will understand that's a strong team because they've got what it takes to put this thing together, whatever the thing is. Yeah. So being able to execute the right business with the right people correctly is going to be key in making sure that your business doesn't fail. So what's the number 2 thing of why businesses fail?
The number 2 thing is about capital. So often people go into business and they underestimate the amount of capital that's required to fully implement their business plans before they gain market traction. It's as if people think that, okay, I go into business today, I open my doors, I hang up my shingle, and the crowd is going to just rush through the doors because I jumped into the marketplace. And so they fail to provide the capital a lot of times that they need for marketing. I say whenever you're entering a marketplace, you have to think of it. If you're bringing a new solution to the marketplace, your customers have been operating without your solution. So either they have an alternative solution that they believe is meeting their needs, or even if it's not meeting their needs, it's what they're using because it's the best that they have at this particular point. So you have to introduce them to the fact that you have something new that's better. And that takes time. And that takes resources in order to inform, that market. I say there's several steps that you go through when you're introducing a market. You need to inform them. You need to encourage them. You need to motivate them. And then you need to have a call to action that you commit them with in order to take some particular action. And all of those things can take time. And that makes up the sales cycle. And different businesses have different sales cycles.
When we talk about the number 2 reason that businesses fail, we're talking about capital, but we're also talking about resources.
Yes.
And capital, of course, is a resource, but your other resources, and underestimating that capital and those resources that are needed are really important to understand. Who is your team that we talked about in the beginning? Do you have the right people working on the right things? And do you have enough people helping you to get it done? Many of us start out as that solopreneur, going at it alone, trying to juggle and do everything. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it right now. I'm looking for someone to support me, but at the same time, I'm sort of like, I don't have time to teach anybody to support me. I'm going to just do it myself. You can't run a business like that. That's not the way to run an effective business, unless you're talking about a private practice of coaching, or a private practice in counseling or something like that. Then you still have people behind the scenes, bookkeepers, financial planners, CPA, different people, legal team that are still supporting you behind the scenes. Underestimating the amount of capital needed and your resources is the number 2 reason that businesses fail. So make sure when you're starting that business, put that little nest egg away before starting, so that you have something that you can live off of and understand what you're getting into. Go ahead.
And I would just add to that, plan for growth, because the other part that happens is in the capital bucket, people fail to begin to create capital relationships early. And so capital relationships, specifically your banking, alternative lenders, your whole finance team, those CPAs, all of those folks become resources to you being able to capitalize your business. And so what happens is sometimes entrepreneurs anticipate that they can operate using cash from their operations, and that too prevents their ability to grow, especially when an opportunity is presented, because it takes time to build banking relationships. So if you haven't created them in the beginning, then it's going to take some ramp up time. And sometimes you miss opportunities that may be presented.
Absolutely. So you should start those relationship building. Relationship building is through the entire process of your business. And we know that because we've been able to build relationships with different people at different levels of our business opportunities, which is amazing, how you can go back to them when you reach a certain point. And speaking of relationships, we'll say good morning to Tiffany and good morning to Greg, who are in our chat. They both said good morning. So we want to say good morning back.
Good morning. Good morning. So the number 3 reason that businesses fail is that they fail to create a clear competitive advantage. Oftentimes they enter into spaces where there's sort of like a me too or kind of a copycat, but they don't have anything that distinguishes them in the marketplace. And so as a result of that, there's nothing, if you're in a business, for example, with low barriers for entry, like I wondered when I first came to LA, and you go into like the Crenshaw area and there was all of these beauty salons and barbershops all along a particular row. And I said, oh my gosh, you're kind of cannibalizing one another's market if it is that there were any potential for kind of walk by a business, so it could work as a pro or a con. One, if everyone comes to the area, then they know that this is kind of the hair area.
Yes,
that can work. But how do you distinguish yourself in a sea of competitors, right?
Absolutely. And Dr. Money, I call that, what is your unique proposition? When you go through the story accelerator, my story accelerator, the last letter of the word story, we talk about at the beginning, the structure, the targets, the ownership, the relevance, and then the why stands for you. What is your unique proposition? If there's a hot dog stand on every corner, what makes your hot dogs different than anybody else's? Same thing with the beauty salon. What is the different thing? Oh, this person knows how to do the cuts with the little, letters in your head or whatever. What is your unique thing that you're bringing into the game? You don't have to have a new game, but you do have to have a unique way that you play. So not having a competitive advantage is something that makes businesses fail, because you're not making yourself special. You're not saying why you're special. And special, thanks to Dee Smith for saying she learned so much from us on the Money and Mindset show. Good morning. We're glad to have you, Dee, or Die if it's Die, because it's Dee. I'm not sure if it's a short one or a long I. But thanks for joining us this morning. Let's go into number 4, into why businesses fail.
Okay, and so number 4 is competing with industry leaders without the capital, capacity, or customer strategy to do so effectively. And so, for example, a lot of investors now will ask you, well, how do you plan to mitigate against Amazon? Because it seems like every time Amazon decides to enter a space, then they take out all the small players. And so a lot of times it's not just necessarily competing with the big player, but finding a way to work with them. And so I'll give you an example. A lot of people forget that how Bill Gates got started with Microsoft was really initially sort of by being in the right place at the right time. It really was. His mother served on the board for United Way with the chairman of IBM at a time that IBM was looking to complete a transaction for an operating system for their PCs. And so they were in negotiations with a company, and that deal didn't work out. And so because of the relationship, they gave this little teeny company, Microsoft, an opportunity. And Microsoft at the time did not have an operating system. But Paul Allen had identified a company that had an operating system that had not fully been exposed. And so they licensed it initially, and then they took over the broader license for that property, that operating system. Eventually, they built upon it and changed it, but that was the beginning of DOS that they made available for $40 for all of the PC manufacturers. So they went beyond IBM to other PC manufacturers and sold that operating system for $40 a PC. And so that was a way of, instead of trying to sort of compete against a big industry player, finding a way to collaborate with and allow that to create some runway to market growth.
Collaborating with industry players, as well as Greg mentions, being in proximity to the competition. We take a look at something like, we take a look at companies like McDonald's and Burger King. McDonald's is in the business of real estate. They find the locations to where to put their restaurants. We think they're in the burger business. They're in the real estate business. They find the best locations. Burger King says, we're going to be in the burger business, but we're just going to follow where McDonald's is, because we know some people are going to eat McDonald's, but then some people are going to say, I want something different. And so they'll have Burger King. If you notice, when you see a McDonald's, not too far from it, you're going to see a Burger King. Burger King follows and stays in proximity to their competitor. They're sort of like, we're okay with being number 2. If everybody knows McDonald's, we know that if we're right next to McDonald's, some people are going to come over here too. And so that's really, really important to understand. Competing without that strategy to do so effectively can cause your business to fail. Strategies don't have to mean how do you overtake your competitor. Sometimes it's how do you work with them? How do you work beside them? There are all sorts of ways to work with competitors or within a competitive landscape, but understanding it and having a strategy is how you stay in business. I think you have one more reason why businesses fail, and why don't you share it?
And so this is one that we saw often. You know, I was active with K5 Ventures as a venture partner, and we looked at, I would say we probably worked with 1,000 or more companies each year. And we'd make an initial seed investment in so many. And then after they hit a certain point, we would look at making a follow-on investment so that we could actually grow and scale them. But many of the companies would run into this particular barrier where there is a breakup of the founding team. And to me, I actually had that down to a number. If I could get the founding team or the business, the founded business, to its first million in gross revenues, I don't know what it is about a million in gross revenues, but that seems to create a triggering event where the founders typically fall apart. And so that's actually one of the stress tests that we built into the model, that as the companies graduated from K5, they would enter into Ivent Labs Accelerator. And our first objective was to accelerate these businesses to their first million to see what happens if they self-destruct at that number. And then if they don't, if they pass that, then I knew that we could take them on to 3 and then 5 million and grow them beyond. But it's amazing. And it's because that there's a lot of stress, of course, in creating something new, a lot of opinions, and sometimes an inability to reconcile those differences. And those differences continue to grow and fester. And that unfortunately leads to a breakup of the founding team.
So the breakup of the founding team, which takes you right back to the beginning, understanding your preferences, knowing your team, knowing your business, and not being able to execute that business correctly because you haven't had those things in place. You're going right back to the team, the relationships, and the breakup of the founding team can be one of the reasons that businesses fail. And it's very interesting because sometimes those breakups can be to break off, and they break into new entities, which end up having to start over, of course. But still, it is a reason why businesses fail.
Yes. And I have a bonus one. And the bonus one, which everyone wants this problem, they think, but they forget. And that is sometimes growing too fast. Because again, in order to sustain a hyper growth organization, that's when really you need capital. Because that's when you have to build the infrastructure to support the business. It's sort of like, I'll use the analogy of building the house, right? When you build a house, you plan out the house. If you're building a 1-story house versus a 2-story house, that impacts the depth of the footing that's going to hold the foundation of the structure that you're going to build upon it. So if you put in footings for a 1-story house, you can't turn around and build a skyscraper on that particular foundation. It's not sufficient to support that foundation, that building, that structure. And so it's the same thing in terms of building your business. You need to have an idea of where you believe you like your business to go, where you believe the business can go, and benchmark against some of the category leaders in your space so that you can get some clues about how they've grown. You know, if you look at privately held versus publicly traded companies, did they grow regionally, nationally, globally? You know, do they use a centralized or a decentralized management style? Meaning, how are their resources allocated? How are the decisions made over the organization? So all of those things require infrastructure and systems. And so if you're preparing to grow, you need to intensify your capital or your overall resources, your resources across your HR, your tech, your finance, your materials, you know, all of those pieces that make up your organization, so that you have sufficient ability to not only take on the growth, but to sustain the growth successfully.
That is fantastic. Our number 6 reason why businesses fail is they can grow too fast. And of course, it goes back to the very beginning of having the proper structure and understanding what you have. So to do a little mindset moment,
Yes.
I'm going to share one more time the 6 reasons, or the 5 plus the bonus, of why businesses fail. But I want to actually shift it a little bit. And we're going to say how to make sure you have a successful business. Because in our mindset, we want to speak into the affirmative, that
Yes.
we're actually making this happen. So number 1, Know who you are personally, and know your business. Execute the business that you have in an efficient and productive way. Execute your business correctly. Number two, in how to have a successful business, estimate the capital needs and your resources so that you can be informed, encouraged, and have a call to action of your business. You want to be able to plan for growth by creating the right type of capital relationships and the right type of resource relationships. Number three, know what your competitive advantage is. What is your unique proposition? What makes your business just a little different than someone else's? That unique competitive advantage is going to take you far. Number four, have your strategy ready to work with other people. Compete with a strong strategy so that you're more effective on the back end. If you know you're going to be growing, that should be part of your strategy so that that building, that structure that you're starting with allows you to grow in a steady way. And number five, know your people and keep them together. Keep a strong founding team. This may also have to do with the numbers of your founding team. You may want to do partnerships or a smaller founding team to help keep that team together. And then the bonus, grow at a steady pace that is in alignment with the strategy that you've already put forth. Thank you, Dr. Money, for sharing those tips with us today. Those are wonderful ways to make our businesses succeed and also reasons why businesses fail. And I'm going to let you wrap it up and tell us anything else you want to tell us before we close out.
Yeah, well, I think that as companies it's spring, so everyone's preparing to return to market or to gear up. I think it's a perfect time to think about this. We got a little bit of a bonus in that our taxes weren't due for April. We got until May, but this is a perfect time to look at, your financial position, the health of your business, and to begin to retool so that you can put yourself on a position for growth. There's a lot of opportunities out here. So I definitely want to see entrepreneurs take advantage of those opportunities and put themselves on a path for growth. And so really with that, that's all we had for today. We'll see you next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Let's all keep growing. I do want to add one more thing. May 1st will be here before next Tuesday, huh? When is May 1st?
May 1st is coming up.
It's coming up. What day is it?
Saturday, May 1st. Yes.
Saturday, May 1st is the first day of Foster Care Awareness Month. And I want everybody, all of our audience, please pay attention to Foster Care Awareness Month and do so by checking in with the She Ready Foundation. You'll find our site will be launched for Foster Care Awareness Month on May 1st. And I would love to have you guys take a look at it and join us in some of our campaigns. Additionally, I'll be posting on the Beyond Story page, and Dr. Money, hopefully you'll post as well. We're going to be partying with a purpose on May 1st at nighttime with a couple of DJs who are doing a versus. The DJs are versing each other. And it's HBCUs, the Divine Nine. There's a lot of competition going on to raise money for scholarships. We want to make sure our young people can continue their educations throughout, well beyond all this COVID season. We have things that are growing and blossoming, and those young people of ours are part of that growth and challenge. So May 1st is a big day. We're coming into spring, y'all. Let's make this a bouncy spring that brings lots of activity. Check out the She Ready Foundation. That is Tiffany Haddish's foundation, and Tiffany supports foster care awareness, and so do I. And so I'm working in conjunction with Tiffany to do that. And then also check out the Party with a Purpose. You can see that on the Beyond Story page and sign up, register, and party with us. Thanks very much.
All right, everyone. Make sure you go to, hey, can you put it in the chat box? the
Yes.
the website as well as the link for Beyond Story, and so that you can see it?
I don't think I can type in the chat.
Let me see.
So it's beyondstory.com.
And then what about the She Ready Foundation?
It is She Ready Foundation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
.org. Okay.
And that new site won't be up until May 1st. We have a site up now, but the new one is May 1st. That's the one we're launching.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone. I've put the information in the chat. So we'll see you again next Tuesday, same time, same place. Until then, go out and grow. And don't forget about money and mindset with the doctors. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.